Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today, we are continuing our ongoing coverage of the war between the Russian Federation and Ukraine, and today we have entered day 50 of the ongoing conflict. That is correct, Mr. General Milley. We have entered day 50 of the continued conflict between Russia and Ukraine. And before I get into the meat and potatoes of the ongoing conflict, I want to discuss a email I received from the Ministry of Truth, aka Google. You guys remember the Ministry of Truth? The Ministry of Plenty. Who would be the Ministry of Plenty? Maybe Amazon. Ministry of Plenty, and Google is the Ministry of Truth. Who is the Ministry of Peace? Anyway, getting off topic here. Gotta love 1984. But in this email from the Ministry of Truth, and it wasn't necessarily directed at Military and Foreign Affairs Network. It was directed at a host of content providers. Making sure that the content creator understood the Ministry of Truth's stance on the ongoing conflict. And I'm just going to rehash that and make sure everybody understands fully that the Ministry of Truth confirms that the Ukrainians have descended from heaven. They are, in fact, angelic beings that have descended from heaven. While, unfortunately, for you Russians, you are the spawn of hell that have risen from the bowels of hell. So again, just making sure I am following the rules by the Ministry of Truth, and I just needed to articulate that before I continue with the program. So, that being said, let's continue. So, something very interesting has happened over the past 24 hours, and we're really trying to confirm what transpired in the Black Sea, allegedly off the coast of Odessa. And we don't know the distance from Odessa that possibly the flagship of the Black Sea Fleet of the Russian Federation may have been attacked by ground-based cruise missiles. Specifically, the Ukrainians are stating that they hit the Moskova, the Slava, the Glory class of the Soviet era guided missile cruiser with two Neptune surface-to-surface cruise missiles designed to destroy warships. These are the Neptune missile is a fairly new missile based off of some Soviet designs that had existed. And the Ukrainians, being an industrialized nation with some super smart people in that country, have developed this missile system that, at least according to their Ministry of Defense and the governor of Odessa, believes that at least two of these missiles struck the flagship of the Russian Federation. This is a very large vessel that was hit. 186 meters in length. It carries roughly 500 personnel. Now, the Russians are stating that a fire erupted on the vessel, and that the crew has been evacuated, and currently the fire is under control. And they are attempting to salvage to save the ship. Now, the Ukrainians initially had reported that the ship was hit again by two of these surface-to-surface cruise missiles. These are more or less like Exocet or Harpoon type cruise missiles, about 1,900 pounds with a 300-pound warhead. So very large missiles. And indeed, if two of those missiles were have to struck the Moskva, then obviously it would have done a great deal of damage to said ship. And now, would that sink the ship? Again, it's hard to say if they were able to contain the fire, or the vessel was struck above the waterline, and there was not a great deal of flooding. Now, we've heard various reports, and this is coming from the Ukrainians, that the ship was listing to one side, had possibly capsized, and in one report had indeed sunk. So apparently the Pentagon is stating that they do not believe the ship has sunk. However, they do believe it was severely damaged, and I think we'll soon, at some point, have satellite footage showing what has occurred and the kind of damage that may or may not exist to this vessel. But in any case, if in fact if it was hit, and this is a very, very important vessel for the Russian Federation, and I would say that the why and the how behind this vessel getting hit probably lays at the feet of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, in that real-time intelligence that NATO is sharing. And quite frankly, I would not be surprised at all if in fact F-35s, the multi-role stealth fighter aircraft, the F-35 Lightning II, was in fact operating over parts of western Ukraine, and especially the Black Sea. And when you have that sort of real-time intelligence coming in to the Ukrainians in terms of exactly the position of certain assets of the Russian Federation, it makes it much easier for an industrialized nation such as Ukraine, who have the ability to manufacture some fairly potent weapon systems, to reach out and strike this vessel. The range of the Neptune anti-ship missile is roughly 180 miles, so a very large distance that this missile can cover and reach out and strike vessels. Now, with that being said, we've also heard reports of the possibility that the Ukrainians may have gotten their hands on some Harpoon anti-ship missiles, or maybe even Exocet types of anti-ship missiles as well. So that's speculation. I think we are gravitating towards the eventuality of the Ukrainians possessing some of these more advanced systems. It looks like the White House has just approved another $800 million in aid. This is not Lend-Lease. This is direct infused aid to the Ukrainians. We're seeing another 500 Javelin anti-tank missiles, a couple of hundred more Switchblade kamikaze drones. I believe we're seeing a multitude of 155 millimeter howitzers, artillery pieces being deployed to the Ukrainian. It'll be interesting to see if we actually give the Ukrainians the Excalibur as well, that precision-guided weapon system that can make the 155 millimeter artillery piece even a greater, much more precisely guided weapon system. We're also seeing the Pentagon deliver 200 M113s. Not going to do a lot of good for the Ukrainians. I mean, it'll help them puts up to the battlefield, but outside of that, those things are death coffins in the modern age, especially if we're giving them M113s, and a host of other pieces of equipment, from body armor to helmets to probably even more clandestine pieces of equipment that we don't even know that are in fact being delivered as of yet. But the most important piece of of assistance that the West is giving the Ukrainians is that real-time intelligence. I cannot tell you how important, and I've said this time and time again, and I'm going to continue to say it, just how important that assistance is in terms of real-time intelligence, both in terms of Russian troop movements and also possible Russian intent in terms of what the Russians are talking about. And we've appear to have some ability, at least, to find out what's going on, even in the Russian inner circle, to some extent. And again, that information is being directly handed over to the Ukrainian state in their ongoing war efforts. But right now, obviously, in terms of what's happening on the battlefield outside of that strike against that Russian warship, is the fighting continues. It is situational. We don't believe the Russians have launched its offensive headlong, at least in that eastern pocket area as of yet. The operations continue, and they continue, meaning the Russians continue to prep the battlefield, shape the battlefield, especially with its helicopter gunships, its tactical fixed-wing aircraft, and continuing cruise missile strikes to degrade and destroy the Ukrainian military. And we continue to see the Ukrainian military counterattack in places, but right now, more or less, the line of contact extending just north of Kharkiv all the way down to Kherson. I don't want to say has stabilized, but the fighting continues. The artillery shelling continues on both sides. But it looks like right now the Ukrainians continue to counterattack in limited areas. The Russians right now are continuing to fend off some of those counterattacks and launch their own localized battalion tactical groups against Ukrainian forces. But right now, the Russians continue to kind of shape and polish the battlefield environment with tactical air assets. Probably should have been doing that for a period or a campaign prior to doing the sorts of operations that were initiated in the early stages of the conflict that appear, at least on the surface, to have been fairly costly to several Russian units, especially northwest and northeast of Kiev. There were some comments asking about continued activity in the north, and there continues to be airstrikes, there continues to be cruise missile strikes, there continues to be cross-border long-range artillery strikes, but for the most part, the Russians have vacated the areas that they had occupied in the north of Ukraine. And again, the fighting right now is really located from Kharkiv running down all the way to Kherson along this kind of this southeastern front. The Russians continue to build up, position itself, reconstruct forces that may have been damaged in other areas of the operation, and to strengthen its position in the east. As I talked about, this operation against Kramatorsk, Sloviansk, Severodonetsk is going to be very, very important in the upcoming days and weeks ahead, and is going to be of vital importance for the Russians to continue with its operation and regain some sort of initiative and momentum in this ongoing conflict. We continue to see the Russians conducting what I would now define as cleanup operations in Mariupol. This area here has gotten much smaller, and on one hand, the Russians are reporting that a significant amount of Ukrainian soldiers have surrendered in Mariupol. The Ukrainians are denying this. However, I think you have to kind of meet in the middle there in terms of what is actually happening on the ground, and the pocket does seem to be getting smaller. We have heard about the Ukrainians running out of ammunition, food, and attempting breakout operations. We heard about one such operation in the north of Mariupol. And apparently a reinforced company-sized element of Ukrainian forces attempted to break out and in all probability try to move north and get out of this area that is occupied by the Russians. And unfortunately for those Ukrainians, they were interdicted by tactical aircraft and artillery, and about half of that force was destroyed, and the other half was quite possibly taken prisoner in the ongoing cleanup operation. But that's where we kind of set. We're anticipating to get further further information about the Russian warship that may have been struck by Ukrainian forces. But again, do not discount the level of assistance that is coming from the West, and it wouldn't surprise me if something else caused the destruction, if that's the case, of that warship, meaning something other than the Neptune. It is highly probable that the Neptune was used, but I would not say that that is with absolute certainty as of yet. But we'll keep an eye on the situation and report. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we will certainly have more very, very soon. Have a good day, everybody.